Hey, and welcome to the Tour Bus Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and today we've got part 2 of our interview with Joseph Patrick Moore, bass player for Cirque du Soleil. By now, you probably realize that he has just gone all over the country, the world, playing bass, and played with just all kinds of different people. And we're only scratching the surface on these interviews these past couple weeks. So it's incredibly fascinating, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
She's like, well, you should think about the Cirque du Soleil's got shows out there. You should think about that. You think about that. And she kept hounding me, man. She kept hounding me.
I would think that'd be right up your alley.
Come to find out, it is. I get this phone call from Montreal. You're one of 3 candidates. They basically said, learn the whole show, and we're going to pick a song from that show. We're not going to tell you what it is. In the show, you have to play electric, fretless, and upright. When the show starts at 7 o'clock, it's an onslaught for an hour and a half. Or somebody falls or something happens, and then all of a sudden we hear the cue. Hold here, loop this bar, over and over and over. 1, 2, 3, 4, loop. Okay, 1, 2, go. So for anyone who's listening who might be interested in getting involved with Cirque du Soleil, I had no work. Once again, leap of faith.
We're playing at Southside, and you're right, definitely a standard of excellence while we're playing there. That's what's helped me grow musically. That's been my, I talk a little bit in the podcast about getting, at bats, just opportunities to play with other people and other people that are better than you. And through Southside, I got to do that. Through North Point, I got to do that by way of like you guys, folks we mentioned, other folks on this podcast. They've gone on to do awesome things. We all go about our way. I look up and you're in Nevada all of a sudden doing your thing, doing the thing you do.
Right.
Very nomadic. How did, just as we parted, didn't get booked together as often, between there and how'd you get to Nevada? And, so walk us through, man, just kind of that gap between we weren't, the time where we weren't getting booked together as much. And then, I look up, you're in Nevada, man.
Well, it's funny. So, some things happened after the Michael Tolcher gig through the North Point thing. There were some things in there. And then 2014, I did the Rocktronics CD with Chris and Wayne. And that's when I was playing a lot with you at Southside during that time, And then I was getting booked pretty much every Sunday, but I was still working in Atlanta. But at this point, so we're talking 2016. Okay, so that's 20 years I was in Atlanta. And I was like, wow, man, I've actually almost been here longer than I was in my hometown. I was only in Memphis 7 years. And I don't know, there's something in me that's kind of a hippie at heart, kind of a gypsy or something.
Dude, are you drinking from the Fountain of Youth? First of all, like...
What's like that movie, Cocoon? No. I jumped in the pool a while ago.
Anyways, okay.
No, so...
Carry on.
But I'm like, you know what, man? There's something in me that's just gypsy at heart. So I'm like, I don't tend to stay in too many places. Just being a world traveler, by the grace of God, I was able to do these tours and things and seeing a lot of places. And it's like, I know kind of what's out there. And it's like, after 20 years in Atlanta, it was like, this is great. I got a lot of great friends here. I can doing work, studio work, again, playing with you at Southside. But it got to a point where I was like, is this where I wanted to put my flag in the ground? It's kind of that point where everybody hits in different points in their life. It's like, is this where I want to plant my flag in the ground? I am working. We got a house, a mortgage, everything's cool. But, I just feel like I need to do something. I don't know. So I talked to my wife, and lo and behold, we thought about it, and we were like, hey, it's a long story, but basically we settled on Nevada. We came out here. We really loved it. Vegas is cool, but we really fell in love with Henderson, which is kind of down the street a little bit and in the mountains. And of course, growing up in the South, living in the South, it was like, what is the one place that could be the most radical place different from the South? And it would be the desert, like in the middle of the cactuses and like rattlesnakes. And it's like, all right, let's go there. So
do you know Sam lives in Joshua Tree?
Oh God.
Sam
Oh my
Bedingfield
gosh.
lives in Joshua Tree.
Dude, I'm jealous. It's amazing down there. That's incredible.
Follow him, man. He just posted an awesome picture.
Okay.
He's got incredible views. I called him the other day. He was on his motorcycle, and he stopped and answered and was like, look where I'm at.
Oh, Sam. Sam's my hero. Dude, that's amazing. Amazing. Yeah, so I totally get the appeal, man, because it's a different wavelength. And just
what was second place and third place? What was runner up behind Las Vegas?
Well, Nashville was in consideration. Los Angeles was in consideration. Like New Orleans, Austin, Texas, places like that. I love those towns. I played there.
Ooh,
but to me, they remind me a little bit of Memphis. It's kind of that Memphis vibe, and it's like, you know what? I've kind of been in that environment. It's still kind of the South. I want to do something radical, and that was the reason I didn't choose Nashville. Because obviously competitive. I do have friends there. I'm not saying I couldn't have gotten work there, but it would have been a little more scary move to me.
Sure.
LA, of course, is great, but the cost of living is a factor.
Yep.
And so Nevada just seemed to be like the place that the cost of living was reasonable. So we moved here. We built a house here, and we just packed up our bags.
Without work lined up?
I'm sorry?
Without work lined up?
I had no work. Once again, leap of faith.
Just confirming. All right.
Total leap of faith, gypsy at heart, looking at my calendar going, I have no work, let's move. So that's what we did. And we sold our house. We sold basically.
If you're going to have no work, might as well have no work somewhere else.
Right. And come to where like everything's crazy, gambling and drinking, and just go there. That'll be great. But so I sold basically everything. I kept my instruments. I kept all my studio gear. We had that in storage. We moved ourselves. We got a U-Haul. We have dogs, cats. We did the whole thing ourselves. But we built this house, and it was kind of the cool process, and moved out here. So I'll get to the surprise you were kind of talking about. So when we moved out here, man, literally, again, no work. But before we moved, again, my wife, being more cautious than me, was saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We need, what are you going to do for work? And do you know anybody? And it's like, no, I don't. And I don't know. And it'll be fine. She's like, well, you should think about the Cirque du Soleil's got shows out there. You should think about that. You think about that. I'm like, no. I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not interested. And that's not something I want to do. And she kept hounding me, man. She kept hounding me.
I would think that'd be right up your alley.
Well, come to find out it is. But at the time I was like, man, I don't see myself doing that, But she hounded me. So honest to God, I went to the Cirque du Soleil website, and then there's a couple more stories in there, but the short version is I went to their website. There was no auditions being called. It just had the general music and submit a video.
Yep.
So honest to God, I did this to please my wife, to say, because she was honestly hounding me about it. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it just so I can say, look, I did it. I'm trying to get work. I'm trying really hard. So I shot this video in my studio in Atlanta. And when I did it, again, I always try to, sometimes to my detriment, I try to go above the call of duty. It was basically, an iPhone video is cool. We just want to hear you play. Well, me, I do like a 3-camera shoot and multi-record it and and I know enough in Final Cut Pro. I edited it myself. So I created this really nice looking video, did an introduction about myself, a short revised version. And I did it, man. And I said, there, I've done it.
Joseph, Patrick, more.
So I was like, look, I did it, job, resume submitted. And so we moved out here, again, no work, totally forgot about it, man. Honest to God, a year had gone by, because that was like 2016. And this time it's 2017. We moved out here, our house, closed on our house. We're here, kind of getting the vibe out here, getting transitioned. And we closed on our house in March. In August, one day randomly, again, I'm just still meeting people here in town, and get my studio set up here and doing some stuff. And I get this phone call from Montreal. And the guy goes, Joseph, I'm calling on behalf of Cirque du Soleil. We've had an opening at a show called Ka at the MGM, and we think you'd be a perfect fit. And we're gonna put you in the pipeline, and you're gonna be getting a call from the MD. So I get a call from the MD, and he said, "Hey, Joseph, my name's Richard. I'm the MD of the show, and you're one of 3 candidates for the show." And he goes, "I just want to let you know, I'll be back in touch." And so, but there is another story I do have to share because it is important. It is very important. So I'm not the guy on the show. I'm what they call an on-call artist, which is a glorified term. I'm a sub on the show, okay? But I'm on contract, and I have been on contract now for 3 years.
Right.
It's year to year. But the guy on the show is a bass player named Derek Jones, and Derek is a monster player, incredible dude, incredible player. He, in the show you have to play electric, fretless, and an upright. And so I do that, but it's his gig, and basically every chair in, let me say it again. Every musician in that band has to have 2 on-call artists in case they get sick. And under contract, you are guaranteed so many shows a month. So I've got guaranteed work every month for, and then if something happens, then they've got the show covered. Anything to keep the curtains up, as they like to say.
Sure.
But here's the weird thing, man. So back in 2003, when I was with this band, Blue Ground Undergrass, we were in Austin, Texas. We were
Bluegrass
outside
Underground. You said it wrong.
Blue.
Say it again. So back
Blue
back
Ground
up.
Undergrass. Blue Ground Undergrass was like a hippie jam band, bluegrass band with drums, and the hardcore bluegrassers hated it because it had drums, but the pedal steel player had distortion pedals and like Kendrick stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But we played this festival in 2002 or 3. It was called the Old Settlers Festival outside of Austin. And on the bill was, speaking of Georgia, Devil went down to Georgia. It was Blue Ground Undergrass, and then a band called Nickel Creek, and then the Charlie Daniels Band. And so we played, and I'm hanging out. We had a tour bus. We're hanging out backstage, and there was this weird guy who played with Nickel Creek, this bass player, and he had like a stick bass, like one of the electric upright basses, and I did too. And he was like, "Hey, you got that?" I was like, "Whoa, dude, you got that?" And we hit it off. Well, it turns out that was Derek Jones.
Wow.
Derek is the bass player on Ka here in Las Vegas. Now to fast forward back to present time. Derek did. Now, this is the way the Cirque thing works. He didn't, and he told me this. He didn't really pull the strings, and he didn't necessarily get me the gig, but he did. He did vouch for me. I think from what I've heard from a couple of other guys that basically the way it worked was there was 3 candidates for the gig. What they did is the whole band got together with the MD. They watched all our videos that we did that I had done 2 years ago or a year and a half ago at that point. And then they talked about it, and they talked about their strengths and weaknesses and that sort of thing. But it was voted on by the band, by committee, who would get the gig. And then you would have to go in and, of course, kind of do another audition once they kind of said you're the guy, to make sure that you're really the guy, So anyway, all that to say, Derek, at least I did know Derek, and Derek knew me, so I think there was a little bit of pulling my lever, vouching for me, but it's not like he 100% got me the gig, but I'm not so sure he didn't have something to do with it. Again, going back to relationships and experiences, and you never know,
the whole thing, man.
Because I just remember that day really clearly, man, in Austin, when we were doing that Old Settlers Festival. We hung out and played bass, and at the time, he was real into C.S. Lewis, and he was into that book, The Diary. What was it? What's the book? Everybody's screaming at me right now. I can't think of the name of the book, but we talked about that book, and we just clicked, man. We hung out for hours that day, and I remember that really vividly. And dude, we never talked again until all this time, all these years later.
Wow.
So that's it, man. So I've had the gig now for 3 years. And of course, right now with COVID-19, everything's on hold like it is everywhere else. So it is what it is.
For folks that aren't familiar with Cirque du Soleil, a very unique performance musically, not only just acrobatically, that goes for saying, but if you don't realize that the music's being played live by a band, if you're at a show where you can't see the band,
That's right. And
I've seen three shows of the traveling sort that come through Atlanta every other year. Some have had bands, but I knew going in. But if you don't realize it, go look up Cirque du Soleil fans and watch a couple videos and realize it's being played live as the performers are performing. So it's no walk in the park. I'd love to know, Joseph, what can you talk about? Did you even know what to do for the audition, what to play, or did you have to make something up, and what was it? And then let's talk about what the gig is actually like.
Okay. Sure, man. So that video audition that I referenced, there were specific 2 tunes that I actually had to play. And so that's why I multi-tracked it and did the 3-camera shoot. And I think I played an upright on one and electric on another. And so that was just 2 kind of random Cirque tunes. You could pick from like 20 of their songs in their catalog. So I just picked 2 songs and did that. But once I got the call here, and I was one of 3 candidates, they actually gave me the book of the show. And they said, work on the music. Here's the MP3s of the show. Here's the music. We'll call you again. And then when I did get kind of the call as the prospective main guy before I was given that title, I had to know the music because they randomly just called a piece of music. They didn't just say, you're going to learn this. They basically said, learn the whole show, and we're going to pick a song from that show. We're not going to tell you what it is. So you had to come prepared. So I spent, dude, about, I don't remember how many weeks, but I remember waking up at 9 a.m. with my coffee, listening to the show, working on the music, and it's very challenging.
It is no joke.
Dude, it's a serious thing, and it's like, the thing about that makes that so unique, at least in the bass world, is that you literally are playing upright bass. You put it down really quick, you grab the fretless, you play, and the thing is I have a pedal board, so I've got distortion and chorus and wah-wah pedals, so that's part of the show too, so you're doing that, and then you throw that down, you grab the electric, you throw that down, you grab the upright, then you're bowing with the upright. So you have to wear a lot of hats on just in terms of stylistically playing the bass, it's very challenging. I don't know if people know the show Cobb, but it's a lot of world music, a lot of odd time signatures. Think of Rush on steroids. There's a lot of 7/4s and 8/16 and weird, a lot of things like that that a lot of people. I mean, it's common, but a lot of people don't play in that. But so there's that whole world kind of vibe going on. So anyway, it's very challenging, man. Again, it's something, like I said from the beginning, it wasn't something I thought, but this is what I'm striving to do. But once I got involved with it, I realized, again, there's a lot to unpack there, but I realized the musicians on this show are really world-class musicians. The accordion players from Paris, they're from all over the world, and they're really great players, great people. The organization is really stellar. It's it's a well-oiled machine. It actually reminds me some of North Point, the way the organization is run, the way it's structured. And for those that don't know, you were right, man. This particular show, the band is actually under the stage. The stage is revolving. It goes 14 stories up and down to the left and to the right, and they fight on the wall like Spider-Man. And so the band is actually under the stage, never seen. There's a couple of times some of the members walk out on stage, but I don't have to do that. They wear wireless packs. So as a sub, I don't have to do that. But you're in your station. We're on in-ears. I'm basically, let me backtrack. There's actually 2 studios downstairs on the stage. There's the one side, which I'm on, which is drums and bass. And there's a glass wall, and then on the other side is everyone else, which is Richard MD's on keys and calls and Ableton. There's a second keyboard, there's accordion, there's a vocalist, there's a celloist, there's a guitarist. And so what we're doing is we're all on in-ears, so we're hearing the show, we're hearing the cues from the MD, but we have a video monitor. Richard, their side has a video monitor. We have a video monitor, and we're actually just able to see the show in real time above us.
And that's bizarre because if for anybody that's familiar, you watch it, you got to be pretty timed up or in sync.
You have to be in sync. And there's a lot of moments you think, as I've done Broadway shows before when I was in Memphis, and it was like, you do about 6 or 7, and you're like, okay, I think I got this, yawn, yawn, yawn. And that sounds terrible because no disrespect to Broadway people, but I think people who do that know what I mean. Once you learn a show, you get to a point where you know where your breaks are and you can kind of relax here and there.
And we're talking the musicians, not necessarily maybe the front folks, right?
Exactly.
The band folks.
The band folks. You kind of learn your moments where you can kind of take a breath and drink water and go to the bathroom real quick if you have to, But this show, man, isn't like that, dude. It's when the show starts at 7 o'clock, it's an onslaught for an hour and a half. You literally, I think there's one moment in the show where I think I have 1 minute to where I can actually breathe and put the bass down and like rest my shoulders. The rest of the hour and a half is like full on. Don't lose your You can't lose your concentration. It's just like anybody else, man. If you're going to go see Dave Matthews Band or just name anybody, that's out there playing a show. That's what it is, and you're on the court, you're on the ball field, and there's no fumbling the ball, and you just go. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how that whole thing's operated. So, of course, as a show, there are certain things in it that are the same every time, but then there's plenty of moments and plenty of weird experiences have happened where there's hang-ups on the stage, or the line gets cut, or somebody falls, or something happens, and then all of a sudden we hear the cue, hold here, loop this bar, over and over and over, 1, 2, 3, 4, loop, okay, 1, 2, go. There's a lot of that, like on your feet. You never know sometimes.
Gosh.
So you can't just go, I got this. It's never I got this, because every show, honestly, even though musically it might be the same, there are moments where you can improvise and you got like that jam bandy kind of free moments, but a lot of it's very succinct because a lot of it's with tracks. So and that gets tricky too for Richard the MD.
I can't even imagine.
Because when they stumble or something happens, he's got to loop the Ableton thing. He's got to go back to that scene, and stay there before he can cue the next. So he's juggling, man. It's crazy what that guy does. And so anyway, all that to say, man, that's kind of a little bit of an insight of how that. Now all the shows are different.
Churches can't change keys.
Well, I've always wished they would invent a capo for the bass for church world. Because, dude, the key changes wear me out, bro.
We need a capo for Ableton is what we need.
Yes, right. But now all the shows are different in the Cirque world. There are some that are just all tracks. There's some that have more musicians, some who have less. They're all different musically, stylistically, instrumentation-wise. I haven't seen them all. I've seen a couple. So for anyone who's listening who might be interested in getting involved with Cirque du Soleil, there's, I think, 5,000 people that are on contract with them throughout the world. So it is a big organization, but really it is kind of small because that's not music. I mean, that's like makeup, art, art costumes, acrobats. So when you get down to the music side, there might be 100, 200 musicians throughout the world that are a part of that. And so it is very competitive, but if there is something that's to an interest to anybody who wants to do this, I would just recommend going to their website, checking out the audition stuff they have. Even if you play accordion, something that you normally wouldn't find, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter your instrument because it might be really well suited for something like Cirque du Soleil.
Absolutely.
And then just throw your name in the hat and just, see what happens. But it's...
And you said it was a year later, you never heard a thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
You never know, man. It was unreal. And it was a blessing because...
But you only got one shot.
I had one shot. I mean, I had the video audition was a shot, but then once they said, well, we think you're the guy, come down here and let's make sure. Then that was, again, the final yay or nay, you know what I mean? So it was like, I knew that and they knew that. And it was like, again, with different experiences in my life, was I nervous? Sure. Was I prepared? I was, but that doesn't mean I couldn't screw it up.
Yep.
Because sometimes, it happens to the best of us and nerves and just like you forget things or, I don't know, you break a string or your strap breaks in the middle of your playing and then you get all discombobulated. I mean, things happen, and you just have to learn to deal with it. But thankfully I got through it, and it's worked out. And man, it's been a real blessing. I love the whole cast and the crew, and it's been a great experience for me. And I really love playing the show when I'm called to play the show.
Sure. Could you close your eyes and talk me through the first date with Cirque? The first time you got the call?
Well, when I knew I was the guy, I basically had to go what they call through, what's the word they use? Not interrogation. It felt like it at times. Integration. It's called integrating into the show. So I literally had to go every day for
just
2 weeks.
Onboarding. It sounds weird. It's a weird word to use, but man, in business world, it's onboarding. You know, everybody does it. You know,
okay.
So nobody freak out. Nobody freak out that it's called inclusion or whatever.
Yeah. On board. Yeah. But now, so you're paid for that time, which was amazing. So at the end of the 2 weeks, I got just this crazy check. But I had to work really hard, and you're there all day long. And I actually worked with Derek. Just Derek and I got together in Bass World, and we went through note by note on the show. And you're going to do this here, and you're going to kick this pedal here, and we went literally, man. So then we would do that during the day. Then Derek and I would go grab something to eat at the MGM or go on the Strip and grab something to eat. And we'd come back, and then I would have to sit and watch Derek play the show. There's 2 shows a night, and there are 2 nights that are dark that are off. But anyway, so I'd have to watch Derek play the shows. So I'm basically there from 12 in the afternoon until 11 o'clock at night for about 2 weeks. And then at the end of that, you have what they call the super sound check. And the super sound check is the band who's done the show thousands of times. The show's actually been there for 15 years now. So they've played this show a lot, and it's a lot of the same guys.
Wow.
So on the super sound check, they have to get there 2 or 3 hours early, and you basically run the show down nonstop, mistakes and all. And I did that. And then we talked about some of the things. And then the very next night, you actually play the very first show.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's this whole process, leading to that first show. But man, it was intense, dude. I'm not going to lie. And honestly, again, like I said earlier, man, I always live by the motto, you're only as good as your last note, your last gig, your last vibe, that whole thing. So to me, every show is like, man, it's like I feel like I'm fighting Mike Tyson. Like I'm in the ring and I'm going to give it my all and hold on and do your best. Because there's no game. Because here's the thing that's intimidating. I did not point this out. Really important to know for people listening. They have outside of the studio downstairs, they have a monitor room, and in the monitor room, they have a full Pro Tools rig. They record every show every night. Wow. At the end of the show, they send the tracks to Montreal. So Montreal actually has a show of every one of us multi-tracked. So at any moment in time, the head honchos who, they can actually go, let's check out Joseph's part at 414. Let's solo his bass track and see what he's doing. So there is this intimidation factor.
Wow.
It's that you can't, I'm not saying you can't screw up. I've certainly fumbled the ball a couple times, but you can't make a habit of it, because if you do, you're probably going to get replaced. And in fact, there was a guy there before me. The reason I actually even got the opportunity was because the guy before me was screwing up too many times.
Wow.
So it's pressure, like a lot of things in life.
No, but that's a pressure cooker, it sounds like.
It is, man. It is.
No, that's fascinating. Now I've got tons of questions about that. But no, thank you for sharing that about how to get involved. That's awesome. And folks listening, I'll get with Joseph about how maybe you guys can interact. I know, Joseph, we've talked, that's something you'd be open to.
Love to.
So I'll get that information out there for folks. So just stay tuned there. But no, we're not landing the plane just yet. What else do you have going on? You're always doing 10 different things. Are you looking to move anytime soon? Don't let this be the way your wife finds out, by the way. Are you looking to move anytime soon? You've got an album, Nevada Sun. I'm sure it has something to do with moving to Nevada. So tell us what else is going on outside of Cirque du Soleil.
Thank you for asking. You know, man, I've been doing some other gigs here. There is a church here in town that I got connected with. Another long story, friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. I wasn't looking for it. It just, I got the call one day. So I get called booked once or twice a month, maybe. So there's that. So in the midst of that and doing some things and meeting people, still building, you know, relationships and learning musicians and stuff, I have a studio here at my house. And I recorded an album called Nevada Sun. It's an 11-song album, 6 originals, 5 covers, maybe something like that. And I released it last year. I played all the instruments, played all the basses, but I did all the programming. And I mixed the album myself and had it mastered by a cat named Rich Breen, who's a Grammy-winning mastering engineer out of L.A. And put that out on anyway. So I put that out, and so it's kind of a weird thing. Somehow this band heard my album in Ohio. It's not really a band. It's kind of a fictitious band, but it's led by a guy who's kind of the producer, quasi-producer, who hires different musicians for these projects. He called me, he said, "Hey man, I got a copy of your album. I really liked it. And I noticed that you mixed the album. Would you consider mixing one of our songs on one of our albums?" I said, "Dude, I would love to. I'd be honored to." So I gave him a quote, and he said, "Cool." He sent me the track. I mixed the track. And again, that's a whole learning process too, which I have regrets for some people. I apologize, Chris. He'll know what I mean. You know, I got some apologies to make there, but nonetheless, he liked what I did. And at the end of the day, he called me back. He said, "Man, we like it. How would you feel mixing the rest of our album?" I was like, "Dude, I'm all in." So I've been actually mixing right now. I'm on the last song of their album, and the album actually has Matt Bissonette on bass, and Matt plays with Elton John right now. And
oh wow!
It has Tony Pia on drums, and Tony played with the Doobie Brothers and some other people, and he's got guest people on it. So there are some kind of like killing playing and really great tones. And some of it was recorded at Capitol Studios in L.A. Some was recorded at Sweetwater Studios at the Sweetwater Music. And
yep.
So anyway, man, I'm finishing the mixes on this song, and so somehow again things have evolved where. You know, I play bass and I write this weird music, but I've also now been getting into this whole mixing thing, and I've been building out my studio, buying tons of new gear and plugins, and acoustically treating my room.
Nice.
You know, it never ends, dude. It's a rabbit hole.
That's right.
Dear God, is it a rabbit hole? So, but man, I'm getting into this whole thing, man, and I'm absolutely loving it. So. If anyone's listening out there and you're in a band or you're in a project and you want to have a song mixed, I would be open to that conversation. So just putting that out there too.
So tell us how folks can get in touch with you.
The standard ways, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. But I do have a website. Unfortunately, it is my full name. The guy with 3 names, josephpatrickmoore.com. You can go there.
Mine's the tourbus.podcast.com. So
there we go. We got the syllables working.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So they can reach me there, contact page, or just jpm@josephpatrickmoore.com is the easiest way. And I check my email every day pretty much. So
awesome. Well, man, I've just had a blast chatting with you. Always fascinating. I know you have all kinds of stories we didn't even touch, man. Like for real, how old are you, man? No, don't answer that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could, but I won't.
You have done just a ton of stuff. You're coming back for more episodes. We're going to dig into all kinds of good stuff that we glossed over here.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I will say this. I will leave you with a little cliffhanger. Next time we talk, let me share some stories about playing Eric Clapton's Crossroads Festival and some of the backstage things that happened at that event.
Oh, I can't wait. And you played with Stuart Copeland.
I did, the drummer for the Police. I played on his concert, his music, one show at the Savannah Jazz Music Fest. I sure did.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, I love you so much. I can't wait to get out there to Nevada, or maybe we do our next episode from one of the 4 states you haven't been to.
Dude, that would be amazing.
I don't know why we don't do it.
Who lives in Alaska, Hawaii, North or South Dakota?
I do have a friend in South Dakota, I think.
But no, man, I really, 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 really love what you're doing. I'm so happy to be involved in any little small way that I can, dude. I just think this is such a great resource. It's a great podcast series, but it's also a great resource. The tour bus, and all the people involved. Man, it's a big honor, and man, I just think it's some really cool tools that you're offering people that I wish that I'd had a lot of these resources when I was coming up through the ranks, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it really does make a huge difference, man. And so thank you to everything you're doing, man. I know you're wearing a lot of hats and you know, you're doing your own leap of faith, so to speak. And I think a lot of people are going to be blessed from what you're doing, man, for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate it, but you know, it's y'all's stories and y'all's talents that are, I'm getting out there. So it's a team effort. No, I appreciate it.
Sure, brother.
Hey, and thanks for listening to the Tour Bus Podcast, a platform built by working musicians and producers to help you get more auditions, more gigs, and more of what you want. I'm Jay, the tour bus driver. If you like what you hear, you can do a couple things. You can subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us online and like us wherever you do your social media. If you have any comments or questions, you can go to thetourbusPodcast.com/tipjar and leave us a comment or question, or you can email tipjar@thetourbusPodcast.com. Theme music provided by the Rocktronics and @Philly Stacks.